Okie dokie friends, John Durham here. I wanted to make a video this morning and show the relocation of the knock sensor. This is a Nissan Xterra, and I bought this vehicle pretty darn cheap because it was at the age in its life where the sensors were failing. Of course, the knock sensor was out, the throttle position sensor was out, the mass airflow sensor was malfunctioning, so it was giving the people a lot of trouble. But otherwise, a pretty darn good truck, in good condition. It's just a lot of the sensors at this miles were failing. But anyway, getting back to the, I read all about the relocation of the knock sensor, which is relocated to right here. This knock sensor is originally down underneath the manifold. It's very difficult to access. It involves about a $1,500 job by your local shop to pull the manifold and everything associated with it. So the guys had figured out to relocate a knock sensor up here on top, and it still does its job. So there was a couple of things that there were some questions about that were not in the information that I could find, and I watched a bunch of videos and read on all the forums about replacing this thing, and there were still some questions that weren't clearly resolved. First off, yes, you find the knock sensor wire is a coaxial. It's a large black coaxial cable, and it is inside that wire loom that runs right there, and that is the last wire coming out of it. It's a black coaxial cable. It will have a center conductor, and then it will have a braided wire shield around it. So one of the big questions was, the guys usually recommend buying this knock sensor for a 99 Maxima. And so a lot of people were like, why the Maxima knock sensor? Why? Well, the best I can figure is because when you go buy this knock sensor on Amazon, it usually comes, the Maxima one comes with the little plug that goes in here. It comes with the little interface. Most of them don't, because that's the only reason I could see to buy it. But then the question becomes for guys, when they do buy the Maxima and they look at it, they notice there's only one wire that's being connected. The little plug only has one wire in it, and they're like, why? Well, because it only takes one wire. And so the next question was, well, which terminal is it inside of here? Which terminal is the terminal I need to connect to? So here's the lowdown on all of that. Take your ohm meter out. You put one end on ground over here on the battery. One of these terminals is just to ground. It just goes to the base of the connector. And this connector is the terminal on the right. So touch the terminal on the right, and you get continuity. So that's the ground terminal. You don't use that. The terminal on the left should read about 570 ohms. Let me get on it correctly here. There it is. It's 575 ohms to ground. That is the terminal that the sensor is using to measure, the knock sensor is using to measure with. So that's the one you connect to. So what you do is, on the coaxial cable, don't even use that outside braided connector. Just twist that all together. You can cut it off. You can wrap it back around the wire. That is the shield drain. It's connected on the other end. And all that does is it drains any possible inductive voltage that this signal wire is picking up from other wires that it's running inside this wire loom with. The way this sensor works is tiny fluctuations in voltage. So you don't want any inductive current getting onto that wire, because it'll screw up the signal. So that's what that shield drain is for. It captures any inductive voltage and drains it off to ground. So as long as it's connected on one end, it does its job. So it's connected on the other end. You don't have to connect it on this end. You can connect it if you want. If you do, you connect it to the grounded terminal. But we're just looking to connect to the left terminal. I pulled this. This is a flat lug terminal, little flat terminal right there. And this came off of a Chevrolet or something I saw in the junkyard inside of a connector. I just busted the connector open and cut one terminal out, connected the wire lead to the center terminal on the coaxial. And then I put me a little piece of heat shrink around it on this end just to make sure it doesn't short out on anything. And then that just goes on the left Let me get it on there. There you go. It just goes on the left terminal right there. And now, and this knock sensor works great. It does its job. It's perfect. The last thing you might want to do, and that's what I'm going to do, is I am going to wrap some electrical tape around the connection just so I don't get any moisture or anything in there. That's the one benefit to having the proper connector that goes down in that connection. But we'll put some tape on that. And when you buy tape, just a little word to the wise: get you a roll of Scotch Super 33. Don't use junk tape. And like I say, get you just a small piece of heat shrink tubing and heat shrink the end of that and plug it in, and it'll work. So that's the lowdown on which terminal and how to tell which terminal to connect to on this knock sensor to make it work. All right, bye y'all.